Hey guys, have you ever wondered about how to build an admin panel with MongoDB? If you have, then this video is just for you. In this video, I'll be showing you how to build an admin panel with MongoDB using Appsmith. And in fact, we are going to be building the admin panel shown right here on the screen. As you can see, we have a nice movie admin panel. And by building this admin panel together, I'm going to walk you through the core concepts of building admin panels with MongoDB and Appsmith. We're going to take a look at how to read documents from the database. As you can see, we have a couple of movie documents being read from the database and displayed right here on the application. I'll show you how to edit records from the database, how to delete records. As you can see, we have trash icons right here. And finally, I'll also show you how to create new records to the database. Alright, does this sound exciting? I'm sure it does. My name is Confident and I'm a developer advocate at Appsmith. Without any delay, let's get started. Alright, so to get started, we need to head over to create a new application. And I'm just going to close up the finished application so that we can go create a new application. And right here, I have a blank application that we'll be starting our work from. But before going in depth into building the application, I'm just going to show you the data we have on the database. Of course, this is using MongoDB as the database. And taking a look at the database, we have a movies DB, and the movies DB has a movies collection. And this has a bunch of documents in the database, as you can see. So we would be building our application using this database. So the first thing we need to do is actually connect to the MongoDB database, and then we can write queries to interact with the database. So let's go ahead to the application and then create a connection to the database. So to do that, I'll need to add MongoDB as a data source. So I'm just going to go to the data source section, click on the plus button, scroll down to where it says MongoDB, and I can click on this, and then I can supply information to connect to my MongoDB database. So I'm just going to call this data source the movies data source. All right. And I can choose to fill out this form or just supply a connection string URI, which is what I'll be doing over here. So I'm just going to paste that in. Then I'm going to click on the test button, and this says it's a valid data source. So I can save this and then get going. All right, so here we have the movies database connected to. So the first thing I need to do is create a query to actually pull in data from the database. And this is where we will be reading data from MongoDB. So I'm going to call this query get movies. All right. And for the command, it's going to be find the documents. For the collection, this is going to be the movies collection. But in cases you're not sure what collection you'll be reading from, when you go to the data sources drop down and then go locate the database you've connected to, Appsmith actually shows you a list of collections you have. So I have the movies collection, and these are all the properties that are available on the movies collection. So for the collection name, this is going to be movies. All right. Then for the query, I just want to grab all documents. Then let's make sure we sort by rating. Each movie has a rating number, so let's make sure we sort by this number. So this is going to be sort by rating, and I want this to be descending. So I can run this query, and here we have a bunch of movies coming back from the database sorted by the rating score, which is actually really nice. So let's go on to display these documents in the application. And I think a table widget will be a great widget to display this information on. So let's go over to the widgets tab. I'm going to search for a table widget. All right, so right here we have a nice table widget. I'm just going to expand this a bit. And here we have a nice table widget. So to link the data coming from the get movies query to the table widget, I need to write some JavaScript using the mustache binding or mustache syntax. So this is going to be double curly braces and then the name of the query or the entity I need to reference data from. In this case, it's the get movies query. So I'm just going to do get movies.data, and you can see automatically we have some data showing up on the table, which is really awesome. So now we have the data shown up on the table. I'm just going to spend a few seconds customizing the table widget a bit so that it shows exactly what we want it to. So for the columns, I'm just going to move the ID column to the bottom and make sure this is hidden because I don't want this showing up on the table. Next thing I'm going to do is fix the order of the columns. So I want the year column to come first, followed by the title. Then we also have the rating, we have the poster, and the rated. So here we have the year, as you can see, we have the title, as you can see, we have the rating, which looks nice. We have the poster, which is a string image URL. We'll be converting this to an actual image shortly. Then we have the rated and the ID. So let's go to make sure that we're actually displaying the images from the URLs on the poster. So here I'm just going to go into the poster column settings and set the column type to image. And as you can see, we have actual images rendered right here. So here we have a nice table showing all of the information we need. I'm just going to turn off some of the table headers so that we have a really nice looking table. So let's head back to the table widget. All right. And I'm going to make sure that in the table headers, I turn off the filters and download, and here we have a nice clean looking table widget. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is how to edit documents in the database, and for that we need a form. In this case we'll be using a JSON form widget. It's a really awesome widget that makes it so much easier to generate forms by just giving it a JSON data. So let me show you how that widget works. I'm going to search for a JSON form widget. By the way, I'm also going to be showing you a regular form widget, so don't worry about it. So this is a JSON form widget, and all you need to do to make this widget work is give it some JSON data, and it's going to intelligently pick out that data and render a form using the data provided. So you can see right here, we have some default data. We have name, we have date of birth, we have employer ID, and based on the data type of the values of this object, the actual or correct form elements are rendered on the form. So you can see the name field is text, the date of birth field is actually a date picker, and the employer ID is actually a number input. So all you need to do is just give it some data and it's going to take care of rendering the form. So let's make it such that the JSON form widget actually renders form data based on the item selected from the table widget. So in this case, what we can do is write some JavaScript using the mustache syntax to bind the data of the item selected from the table. By the way, the name of the table right now is table 1. We can still go in to call it whatever we want. We can say something like movies table, but I'm just going to call it table 1 to keep things short. All right, so let's head back and we are going to reference table 1 dot selected row, and here we have the data of the selected row. You can see this is actually some JSON data, and giving it to the JSON form widget actually just renders a form, as you can see. So we have all of the fields. We have the rated, year, rating, ID, title, poster. We have all of those fields right here. So let's go on to edit the form a bit. The first thing I want to do here is make sure I give the form an appropriate title. So I'm just going to call this the edit movie form. So I can say edit movie. All right, that looks good. Next thing I want to do is make sure I turn off auto generate form. The reason why I'm turning this off is that, as you can see from the data coming from the database, some documents actually do not have a TV rating, the rated view age. Say for example, the Civil War movie actually has no rated field. And as you can see, if I have this selected, we don't actually have that input rendered, and it makes it impossible to go enter that data for this record. So what I'm going to do is select a row that actually has all of the required information, then head back to the JSON form widget and turn off auto generate form. So this is going to lock the structure of the form. But if I go select Civil War, all of the form fields actually change, but for the rated fields, this actually stays empty because it's empty right here. So that's why I'm turning this off. Next thing I need to do is go ahead to turn off the ID field because I don't want the ID to be editable. So I'm just going to turn this off, and everything here looks good. But we need to make sure that we have the rated fields configured, because this is supposed to be a drop down so that we can go select a rated age and then have that saved to the database. So to show you how to do this, I'm going to need to write some JavaScript. But before that, we need to go into the rated input. So I'm just going to go to the settings of the rated input and make sure that the input type or the field type is a select widget. And you can see this has been converted to the select widget. The select widget requires an array of objects that has label and value, which will be used to build out the form, as you can see. So it needs a label, which is the actual text displayed on the drop down. As you can see, we have blue, and it needs an actual value, which will be the value of the item selected from the form widget. So we can go in to supply some raw JSON right here that copy paste the actual label value right here. But what I'm going to do, because Appsmith actually allows you to do it, is use JavaScript to actually generate these fields. So let's go create a JavaScript file. I'm just going to head over here, create a JavaScript file. So let's create a JS file. I'm going to call this utils. All right. and let's delete all of the boilerplate code right here. So I'm going to call this the rated function, all right? And I have an array of TV ratings. I'm just going to paste it right here. So you have the PG-13, you have the PG, you have other rating formats. I'm going to save this into a variable. So I'm going to say const rating, which is going to be all of the data coming from the array. Then what I'm going to do is map over this array and create a list of label values matching the data coming from the array. So I'm going to return that data. So let's return it, rating.map. And here I'll go ahead to return an object that has a label, which will be R, and value, which would also be R in this case. All right, so this looks nice. I can run this and you can see here that we have the array automatically generated for us. So we have the array that is required to build an option. And the reason why we're writing this with JavaScript is because we would also need this same data in the update process when we go ahead to create the update form process, so that we don't have to copy paste things. And if we need to update one of the values in the field, we have a single place to go update it from. That's why we're writing this using JavaScript. So now that we have this done, I can head back to the edit movie form. Let's go to the rated field, and for the options, as you already guessed, this is going to come from the JavaScript file. We have the utils.rated, and you can see we have that shown up right here. So you can see the form has been built out using all of the ratings from the array you saw earlier, which is pretty nice. So if you go select the first movie here, which actually has a rating, you can see that this is automatically pre-filled, but for a movie which does not have a rating, we can go select a rating from the list. So this is actually nice, and we have everything looking good. Now, what we need to do is actually write an update movie query, because right now we have the form UI, but the form actually does not do anything. If we make changes, it doesn't get saved to the database. So what we want to do at this point is go create an update query and hook it up to the form so that we're able to make updates or writes to the database. So to do this, I'm going to go to Explore. Here I have the movies collection. So I'm just going to use the shortcut available on Appsmith. Of course, you can always go to the movies database and create a new query, but I'm going to use these shortcuts, which actually creates a template for writing updates. So I'm going to click on the lightning add button and go select the update templates. And this is going to create an update template. So I'm just going to call this update movie. All right, so the command update document already prefills the collection. For the document ID, this will be the ID of the document from the table widget. So this will be the document of the ID selected on the table widget. So it's going to be table1.selectedrow._ID, and you can see we have that being pulled out right here. Then we want to make changes and we want to set some data to that document. So for the set command, we just want to read the data coming from the JSON form widget. So this is going to be JSON form1.form data. This should be form data. All right. And you can see that we have all of the information being pulled out from the form widget. We have the year, the title, the poster, and all of the information required being pulled out right here. So everything looks good. I'm just going to limit it to a single document. And here we have the update movies query done. Now we can head back to the page and let's go back to the form and make sure that when the submit button is clicked, we want to go ahead to execute the update movie query, but we also want to make sure that the application is refreshed. For example, if I go select the first movie right here and change the rating from 9.7 to let's say 9.9 for example, and click on the submit, it actually has made the update to the database. But as you can see, the application still has some stale data showing up right here. So what we want to do is make sure that whenever the update query is done running, we want to go re-execute the get movies query so that the application has some fresh data. So this is done now. And here I still have it set to 9.9, but the moment I click on the submit button, you can see that this is also updated on the UI of the application. So this is nice. Let's just stretch the table a bit, and this looks nice. By the way, we also have a theming feature on Appsmith. I'm just going to quickly show that to you. So to access this, just click on any blank part of your application, such as the canvas, and here you have the application properties. So you can go change the theme, and I can change the theme to this really cool blue looking theme, as you can see, and you can see the application looks fine. We can also edit a theme that is selected. So I'm just going to head back and do a couple of things. First, I'm going to change the font of the theme to Ubuntu. I really love this font, and you can see that this has been updated to Ubuntu. Next, I'm going to change the background color to something that has a little bit of a dark shade, and you can see this is a little bit dark. The canvas is a little bit darker, and let's give this some border radius and some box shadow while we're at it. And here we have some nice looking application with rounded widgets showing up. All right, so that's for the theming feature. Next step is to create a process that makes it possible to add new movies to the database. So right now we're able to read data and update it. Let's create a process to add new movies to the database. For this, we need a modal widget. So I'm just going to search for a modal. All right, so I'm going to bring the modal into the canvas. And right here, we have the modal widget. So let me expand this a bit. And I'm just going to get rid of the other widgets that exist within it. All right, so here we have a blank modal. For this modal, we need a way to be able to open it up from the UI. And to do that, I'll just bring in a button widget, place this right here. All right, so we have a nice button widget right there. I'm going to call the button the new button and make it have an icon of plus. All right, this looks good. And then when the button is clicked on, we want to go ahead to open a modal, and that's going to be modal 1, which is the modal we just created. So I can go ahead to open up this modal, and here we have the blank modal. For this modal, which we'll be using to create new records in the database, we're going to be using a regular form widget. So let me show you the form widget as I promised. This is the regular form widget. Just search for a form widget, and here you can see the JSON form as well as the form widget. I'm just going to bring the form widget into the canvas, place it right here. Make sure I move the close button into the form widget. All right, and let's make this take up the entire space. Okay, so this looks nice. I'm just going to make sure for the modal widget, I set it to fixed so that it does not scroll. All right, and I can expand this just a little bit and make sure that this is expanded as well. Okay, I think this looks good, so I'm just going to leave it as is. So for this form, we need a couple of widgets inside of it because to create a record in the document, we need to supply a movie year, a movie title, the rating, the poster, and some other information. So let's go create inputs for all of that. So I'm going to move the buttons right here to the bottom of the form widget. All right, so I'm just going to move them right here. And of course, I can bring this to the opposite side. All right, that looks good. The first widget I'll be bringing in is going to be an input widget. So I'm just going to bring in an input widget. Let's place this right here and expand it all the way. All right, so this looks nice. All right, for the form widget, for the input widget, one small tweak I'm going to make to it before coming back is making sure that for the label, I have the column width set to 7 so that I'm going to be able to entirely see all of the text label of the input widget. So because I'll need this a couple of times, I'm just going to copy it over and paste it 2 times. So the first is going to be for the movie title. So I'm going to head back to the first input widget. In fact, I'm going to rename this widget because I'm going to need to reference it somewhere else. So this is going to be the title input. So I'm just going to call this title. All right. And also for the label, I'm going to call this title. All right, that looks good. Our next form field is going to be for the poster. So we need to also provide some data for the poster. Let's go in to do that. So this is going to be for the poster. That's the poster input. And I'm going to also set that to be the label of this input. So this is poster. All right. Next, we need an input for the year. So I'm just going to move this up, make sure it's aligned. So I'm just going to call this the year and make sure that the data type is of type number because years are always the number. And now let's go give it a label of year. All right, this looks good. The other 2 widgets we need would be for the rated and also for the rating. So for the rated, I'm going to use a select widget, same as what we used in the JSON form. So let's look for a select widget. All right, so here we have a select widget. I'm going to place this right here, expand it all the way, and make sure this is the rated input. All right. So for the options, remember that we have a JavaScript file that generates a list of options. So we don't have to copy paste an array of objects having label values. So we can actually reference the data returned from that function and use that right here. So for that, I'm just going to do utils, which is the name of the file, dot rated. All right, and right here we can see all of the options generated. I'm going to delete the default value, and let's head down here to set the text to rated, and we can also give it a column width of 7, and this looks nice. So if we go take a look at the drop down, it has all of the options shown right here, which is actually cool. The last thing we need to do is create a rating input, and for that we are going to use a rating widget. So we have a rating widget. I'm just going to bring it right here, and it's a pretty cool widget, so I'm just going to expand this all the way. I think we need some room over here, so I'm going to expand this as well. Make sure this is expanded too. All right, I can bring the button to the bottom, and let's bring this to the bottom as well. All right, so we have the rating widget, and I'm just going to call this rating, and let's give it a rating, max rating of 10, so that we have 10 stars. We can leave 3 as the default rating, and we have everything looking good. The last thing we need to do here is leave a label, and we need a text widget to give a label. So I'm going to search for a text widget and bring that right here. So I'm just going to keep it right here, reduce it, bring it right here, and that's going to be the label for the rating input. So this is going to be rating. All right, and I'm going to make this light, and there we have a nice text widget right there. I think the font is a little bit big, so I'm just going to make this small. All right, and that looks nice in line with the other widgets. So now we have the form for creating a new movie. In fact, I'm just going to name this form the new movie form, and let's make this large. All right, this looks nice. So here we have the new movie form. The problem with it right now is that it does not work because this actually does not create a new movie. So what we need to do is go write a query that would actually pull in data from this form to create a document in the database. And we're going to call that query the create movies query. So let's go ahead to do that right now. All right, so I'm going to head over to the Explorer. Let's use the shortcut method. So here I have the movies table. I'm just going to click on the add, and I'm going to be using the insert template. So this is going to create a new document. I'm going to call this create movie. All right, that looks good. And here we can see everything is already pre-filled for us. For the template, we need to edit this a bit because we would not be supplying an object ID. That would be automatically generated. Next thing we need to do is going to pull in data from the form. So for the poster, we're going to be pulling this data from the form input, and we have a poster input that was named poster. So what I'm just going to do right here is pull in that data. So this is going to be poster.text, and right now it's an empty string. So what I'm going to do is head back to the form and type in some data so that we don't have objects with empty data while trying to build that out. So for the title, I'm just going to say The Avengers. For the poster, I'm just going to quickly grab that from Google. So I'm just going to copy this over. Let's look for the poster for The Avengers. I'm going to go to images, and this poster looks really good. So I'm going to copy the image URL. All right, I'm going to head back here and paste it in right here. All right, for the year, this is 2012. For the rated, this is PG-13. So I'm going to select PG-13. I'm just going to give this 10 stars because it's such an awesome movie. So let's head back to the query we were building earlier. That's the create movie query. All right. So taking a look at this, you can see in the evaluated value pane, we actually have the image URL supplied from the input. Now let's go supply the rating. And of course, this is going to come from the rating.value, which is the star widget. And you can see we have a rating of 10. For the title, this is going to come from the title.text. All right, and you can see we have the Avengers. For the year, this is going to come from the year.text, which is the number input 2012. Last thing we need to do here is create a field for the rated because that was not auto-generated from the template. So this is going to be rated, and this is going to come from the rated.selected option value, because that's the drop down we have right there on the application. And here we can see it's PG-13. So we have this done, and we can head back to the modal. So I'm just going to head back to the modal. Here we have the modal, and make sure that when the submit button is clicked on, we actually go on to call the create movies query, which will take the details from the form and create a document on the database. So let's go ahead to execute a query, and this will be the create movies query. We also want to make sure that we have the application updated so that we have the new document showing up on the table. So for the on success, I'm just going to go execute the get movies query. All right, and that looks good. But one other thing we want to do is make sure we close up this modal once the create movie process is done. So because we need to actually write more JavaScript, I'm just going to click on the JavaScript button. And what I'm going to do is that instead of returning a single function here, I'm going to create a function body right here and call the get movies query. And before that, make sure I actually close up the modal. So I'm going to use the close modal function. So this is the close modal function, and give it the name of the widget I want to close, which in this case is modal 1. So this is modal 1. All right, this looks good. So we can go ahead to test this out. Here I have the Avengers created. I'm just going to click on the submit button. Before doing that, I'm just going to make sure that the reset button is on the same line as the submit button. So I'm going to go ahead to click on the submit button, and you can see that we have the Avengers showing up on the table, which is pretty awesome. So here we've been able to go through the flow of reading data, editing data, and creating data. Last thing I'm going to show you right now is how to delete records from the database, which is pretty awesome. So to show you how to do that, let's head over to the table widget. And what I'm going to do is create a custom column and make it be a button column to delete documents from the database. So I'm going to click on the add new column button, and this is the custom column. I'm going to call this delete. All right. And we can go in to configure this column. So for the column type, you can already see the column showing up right here, as you can see. So for the column type, I'm going to make sure that it is an icon button column. So we have the icon button. For the icon, this will be the trash icon. All right, we have the trash icon right here. For the color, let's make this red. And there we have the delete icon. I think this looks good. The only thing we need to do is make sure that when the button is clicked on, we actually go delete a document. And for that, we similarly need to create a query to do exactly that. So I'm going to use the template right here, and this will be the delete template. Let's call this delete movie. All right, that looks good. And we have the command to delete documents. For the ID of the documents, as you already guessed, I'm going to be pulling this from the item selected on the table. So this is going to be table 1.selected row._ID. And we have this looking nice. So heading back to the table, let's go to the delete button. Let's make sure that when this is clicked on, we execute the delete query. And when that's successful, we actually go to execute the get movies query so that we have the app updated. So now we have the table, and we can actually go delete the Avengers. Right now it's the top movie showing up because it has a rating of 10. So I'm just going to go ahead to delete it. And you can see that now the Band of Brothers is the top movie showing up on the application, and the Avengers has been deleted. So this was really nice and really awesome. Let's cap this off by giving the application a title. I'm just going to call the application the movies admin panel and bring in a text widget that's going to display exactly that. So let's expand this a bit. So let's say movie admin panel. All right. And I'm going to make this text size really large. And there we have the nice text title for the application. So I'm going to go ahead to deploy the application. I'm going to deploy it. And here we have a link to the application that is shareable. So we have the application built right here, and I'm just going to make sure that we have the title showing up. And here we have the display. We're able to edit movies, for example. I'm going to change the rating of this to 10, for example. Submit it. And here you have that updated. We can create new records, we can delete records, and this looks really awesome. I can choose to go ahead to share this application, making it public, and sharing this with my friends if I want them to have access to this admin panel. But if I only want specific people to have access to it, I'm going to turn this off from being public and actually invite people via their email address and specifying a role I want them to have on the application. Awesome. So this has been a really cool video, and we've been able to take a look at all of the core functionalities that's required to create an admin panel with MongoDB. I've shown you how to read data from the database displayed in the application, edit documents, create new documents, and also delete documents. All of that has been done in today's video. Now, if you'd love to learn more, I'm going to leave a link to this video that shows you how to use version control in your applications. You can actually connect Git to your applications and back up all of the work you do. So go check out this video to learn how to do exactly that. And I'm also going to leave one more link to a video right here that shows you how to write JavaScript in Appsmith, because complex applications do require JavaScript. So this video shows you how to achieve that by writing JavaScript in Appsmith. So go check out that video. Awesome, that'll be all for today's video. If you have any questions, please do ask in the comment section, and don't forget to get subscribed so that you don't miss future videos from the channel. Alright, that'll be all for today's video. Till I see you next time. Take care, bye bye.